Hey everyone, welcome again to another episode of Disability Landscape. I'm your host, Charlie Brose. Back with me this month is our other co-host, Mark Knutson. And we've got an old friend of ours joining us today. Mark, who do we have?
Yeah, we've got, like you said, someone we've had in the past. He's from the Metropolitan Center for Independent Living, and I've already forgot it, he just told me, but his name is Nick Wilkie. What's your title again? I am sorry.
No worries. My job title, sir, is Independent Living Coordinator.
I was gonna say.
It's actually in the name of the business.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I know you get pleasure out of this, Charlie. That's why you always have me introduce them. So, but welcome back, Nick.
Good to be back, Mark. Really good to be back. I was just sharing with you guys earlier that I think last time I was here, there wasn't snow on the ground, and it was over a year and a half ago.
Yeah, because in fact, I think that's when you had your Hawaii. I think you had a Hawaiian shirt on because it was summertime, and I think that day was pretty warm.
It was.
Also, and that.
It was.
So. Yeah. But while we first, I know you eventually want to get to something to talk about accessible living type things.
Totally.
But why don't we first start off and just get to know again what MCIL is, Metropolitan Center for Independent Living, and what they offer.
Definitely. So MCIL is the metro area's Center for Independent Living. We have a lot of different services that the community can access. Because we're the metro area's Center for Independent Living, we are one center for independent living, but there are actually 8 centers for independent living across the state of Minnesota. So we're the one that serves the major metropolitan area. We're located in St. Paul, just on the edge of downtown. We have been downtown St. Paul now for about 7 years. Prior to that, we were located on University in St. Paul. A lot of our services are focused around information and referral, independent living, of course, teaching people the skills to live the way that they want to, as well as seek out those resources so they can build those skills. We also our foundations also lie in advocacy and community participation.
Yeah, so essentially too, you do not do the actual rehabilitation part. That's other people are involved in that. You kind of get someone after, they've rehabbed and now they're in this new world of having a disability, or they're growing up and they're moving out. That's where you get involved.
That can be where we get involved because of the way that we do information referral.
Yep.
We also might find out about a need that's even before that rehabilitation or just navigating to services for the first time. So a lot of times we can help people make those connections. So there isn't necessarily a right or a wrong time to call, as long as people are willing to make the call and do the exploration. 100% of our services are free to the individual, but what's not free is the time that someone's going to spend exploring their own goals or pursuing the actions that they want to pursue.
Right.
So, it's if you're willing to do the work for yourself and also with support, there's a lot of things that we can help out with.
You guys, pre-pandemic, had in-person classes for many of your clients. Have you been able to restart those?
We haven't been able to start in-person classes. We're still operating from a virtual capacity at this point. Prior to pandemic, you guys, I don't know if you're like me, but I hadn't Zoomed at all.
I think before the pandemic, the only Zoom we saw was from the Batman show.
Right.
Bang Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom, splat, right? So, doing that has been an adjustment. We still do a lot of outreach in the community, helping people pursue one-to-one goals in that virtual sense. No lie, I miss the in-person stuff a lot, you guys. Just the the actual eye contact with other people, meeting people in the community, meeting somebody at a library or a coffee shop that's close to their house. That's something that I still thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah.
Just being here in the studio with you guys today, it's a real, I feel good about it. So.
I know you'll be signing autographs afterwards, right?
Try to.
I know.
Try to.
But no, with the classes that you, even before pre-COVID, but what are some of the classes that you do offer?
A lot of the individual classes that we would have might have something to do with discovering what the independent living philosophy is all about.
Okay.
Why Centers for Independent Living were started.
Yep.
How to build on disability awareness. How to understand more about your diagnosis so you can be a better advocate for yourself if you want to. Classes around communication, classes around, one of the things that I really enjoy doing when we can is teaching people how to use the various modes of transportation around our community, because that's a night and day difference. Once somebody knows how to utilize those things,
that opens a lot of doors.
They can get out and go do what they want to do. So really, you guys, there are not too many topics that we wouldn't have a class or somebody with a skill set that has approached that before and would be willing to teach somebody else how to do it.
Yeah.
So,
because I know from a number of years ago, you actually had a mentorship program.
Yep.
And I'm sure that the pandemic has really kind of put the brakes on that.
Yep. A little bit. I think one of the challenges too is, how are you connecting with people?
Yeah.
And I would say that the advent of Zoom has made that connection part a little bit easier because you don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
But then it comes out of the question: do we have the right people matched up? Do we have individuals that are willing to work with other people on these specific goals? And a mentor might be pushing somebody in a direction that they might need to go, but if somebody says, I'm not ready to do that, then it's kind of up to them, right?
Right.
We know that. The mentor's got to have the give and take.
Yep. But you also got to want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why we like to capitalize on, when someone is ready, when they say they want to do something, let's move towards whatever that goal might be.
Okay.
And if somebody gets a success, it becomes easier to build on.
Okay. Now you were talking about with the classes that there is a cost to some of the classes, that type of thing.
Yep.
Is there things out there that could help cover those? If the cost is an issue, what can be done?
Well, so when it comes to our classes and stuff like that, there's still no cost for the individual.
Okay.
But if we're going to make a referral to an outside entity, we can't guarantee that that's going to be free.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Okay.
So if it's if it's in-house, if it's with the Center for Independent Living, a lot of that cost is we're going to remove that barrier because we don't want we don't want that to be a barrier.
It's when you have them working with outside organizations where there may be a cost to them.
Yep.
But they have to be willing to take that on in order to move forward.
And that gets me to our mission, you guys, and I'm surprised I haven't said it yet, but about 5 years ago here, we kind of re-examined our mission because we wanted to be able to tell people what it is that we actually do. So for the last 4.5 years, we've been removing barriers, whatever those might be. It could be a financial barrier, it could be a connection barrier to a resource or something like that, or it could be a physical access barrier someone can't get in and out of their house.
Right.
We want to remove those barriers, but then we also want to promote the idea that everybody has the capacity to make a choice.
Sure.
And encouraging people to make those choices with the understanding that sometimes if an individual is not ready to make a choice or unwilling to make a choice, sometimes they also set up their own barrier.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, sometimes they themselves can be the biggest roadblock in that.
And that's hard because we want to encourage people to the best of our ability, but we're also a center for independent living, so we're not in the business of doing things for people.
Sure.
We want to encourage people along the way.
You're trying to help set people up for success.
Yep. But we don't want to create dependence.
Sure.
So
yeah. Is there what's new with MCIL?
So well, one of the newer hats that I've been able to wear over the last 15 years that I've been with the agency is about 5 years ago I had an opportunity to start digging into home access and home modifications.
Okay,
and,
it's a big topic.
And when I first started, you guys, we were transitioning from a previous model having contractors on staff that would go out and do the measurements and go out and buy the materials and then actually do the work and the modifications right on site.
Yep.
But what we found is there's a medium where we can still be that connection, even though we don't have contractors working on staff. There's a number of providers in the community that I can help people make connections to, whether it be home modifications or ramps for access, or railings or special steps, that kind of thing. Sometimes the volume of calls that I get now, you guys, and we average probably in the low 80s of access calls per year.
Oh, you do? Okay.
So
Modification.
for home modifications and/or ramp related phone calls.
Okay.
Or it could be people already have connections to possible estimates. They're just looking for funding streams.
Okay.
So it's a matter of, what kind of funding streams can we connect them to?
Sure.
Right.
And are those entities available? And some might require some lifting on the part of the individual, like an application process.
Yes.
And if they can follow through with the application.
With you guys, you mean, or?
Not necessarily with us.
Yeah, with you, but
it would be an application with maybe a community grant program.
That's what I was going to get into, because you got all that funding side.
Yep.
You have to dig into people don't know.
Yep. Or it could be an application with the county.
Okay.
A lot of these home modifications could be funded through the waiver or something like that. But
can you just briefly describe what a waiver is?
A waiver is a funding stream that is designated by the county that you live in. So every single county, they have different county services. So the waiver programs are the different waivers that are out there. There's something called the caddy waiver. There's something called the elderly waiver, and there's something called the brain injury waiver, and then there's also a DD waiver that's out there. Okay. So every county has those waivers, and every single county has an application process that you have to go through to see if you're eligible for that.
Yeah, because you have to be already qualified for those.
Yep. And once you're qualified, a lot of those modifications could be paid for.
Yeah, a lot of
through
things.
The waiver.
A lot of things can.
Yep.
When you have a waiver, when you have the waivers, a lot of things can kick it, not only for accessibility, but just for a lot of things. But for our discussion,
Yep.
the accessibility part, the funding is always a big source in that.
Yep. So over the last 3 to 4 years, and especially during the pandemic, what we've been able to do at MCIL is come up with a good solid list of providers that really focus in on meeting the needs in the community, doing estimates, and providing really good customer service because a lot of these things make or break. Individuals are able to stay in their own homes for longer periods of time, which is less costly for the individuals than it is to maybe move their situation and move to a more accessible situation that could be more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a lot of the home modification things, do you find that they are newly disabled people or people with disabilities that, as they age, as all three of us here, our body functions a little differently. We may become wheelchair dependent, that kind of thing. How do what's the kind of mix there?
I would say it's all of the above, Charlie.
Okay.
Because, and that's the other grace thing about a Center for Independent Living is we don't have an age range. Okay. So a lot of times people might be directed to give us a call for home access stuff from the disability hub.
Sure.
Okay. They get the referral, and then I get a phone call, and then we collect a little bit of information, find out a little bit more about the case, about what's happening, and then I go through a list of questions to help zero in on what the needs might be, and ultimately seeing if there's a lot of those questions relate to is there a niche for funding that we might be able to get?
Sure.
What county do they live in? Am I aware of any grant programs that cover that county for specific things like ramps? Some of it is finding small partnerships. There's a local entity that all they do is grab bars. Okay.
What? Really?
Yep. And this is a
Interesting.
referral that I've been able to make over the course of years.
Yeah.
And it's somebody that drives up in a van full of grab bars, comes in,
measures,
sees what the need might be, also figures out where is going to be the most appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll move forward and install the grabs.
Some kind of like a grab bars are us or something.
Yeah.
Like Toys R Us. Grab bars are us.
Well, and that's the other thing that I tell people is that sometimes they might be looking at a full modification when all they might need is maybe a grab or two that becomes maybe more affordable, more approachable than a full modification.
Right,
Now,
right.
I'm not going to say that full modification isn't a good way to go because sometimes it is.
Right.
But the other thing that you're dealing with is being able to finance those projects. And if somebody's not eligible for the waiver, and they're not eligible for some of the other funding streams that I have, it's further conversations about, how might you be able to fundraise for this need?
Right.
Connecting with local city programs, local Lions clubs, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So,
No.
lots of needs out there.
Typically, and I know it can change. It's a little different, but how long does it take if someone has, like, all of a sudden, a need for a ramp? Typically, that can be like a one-day thing. I think. I don't know. Do you recall?
So, like, what's the timeline from start to finish?
Well, let's go from start to finish, because I was thinking just the construction part, but there's a lot you got to get it all set up to paid for.
Well, right.
Yeah, so the whole process. You're right, the whole process.
So,
measuring, engineering.
Measuring, engineering.
Yeah.
There's some programs out there that literally, once they get everything finalized, they can probably put the modification in the next day.
Yeah, they can get the ramp in.
And that might be for an exterior ramp,
right. I'm
or
talking
something like that.
exterior.
Yeah, I've seen the steel frame ones that
Yep.
can go up in a day, and
Yep.
they're
Totally.
very versatile, very
Yep.
very workable.
Yep. And, you know, like the wide range of needs that we see, you know, I mean, one of the biggest battles is figuring out that funding piece.
Yeah, that's
You know?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, that's
because-
more the bigger battle.
Because there's an application process.
right,
or-
yep,
or-
and the funding source and all
Yep.
that, yep.
So, I mean, I wish that I had a magic wand that said, "Oh, this sounds like a good cause. We'd love to
Right.
fund this thing. We'd love to get the need taken care of." I'm still working on that magic wand.
But because
If you get a magic wand, use it on the Vikings, okay? But
Yeah.
go ahead, Charlie.
MCIL does not have its own funding stream for that type of program,
No,
for those type
not
of things.
not that we can apply to
Right, it's all-
to this need. A lot of our funding comes from state and federal dollars.
Sure.
And then we also, one of the ways that we've been able to expand so much is through some of the contract work that we do through the state and other entities.
Okay.
So
I was, just touch base a little bit. You had mentioned about the Disability Hub. Can you just talk a little bit about that too?
yeah. So the Disability Hub is still probably one of the best ways that MCIO and guys like me do information and referral. So when I'm looking for resources for somebody, I will call or do an online chat with a options counselor from the Disability Hub to gather information about what kind of connections might be in the community for the individual. You know, not necessarily for like home access stuff, because that could be something that I would get a referral from the hub for.
Okay.
But a lot of that stuff, you guys, you know, doing that research, helping guide somebody to those connections, and then when applicable, I love being able to reference the Disability Hub as a resource that everybody can use to gather information for themselves.
Yeah, because when you say reference Disability Hub, you're not having to go someplace. It's a website.
It's a website. It's a phone number.
Do you know the website name? I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Well, if you Google Disability Hub, you'll find it. You will find it. I would say I think I can pull the number off the top of my head.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
1-866-333-2466.
Okay.
Okay.
I wasn't going to ask you the number because I thought the number you may not have. I guess I should have asked you to have the number instead of the website.
That's
Sorry
all right.
about that.
The number hasn't changed over the years.
Oh, okay.
The website. The
Oh,
website.
yeah, website names changes.
Yep.
But yeah, like you said, all they have to do is Google
Yep.
Disability Hub.
Yep.
Maybe MN. I don't know. There's
Yep.
other disability hubs out there, but
Well, and actually, you guys, Disability Hub is still just for the state of Minnesota.
cool.
I don't have a frame of reference for if there's other states that have a resource like that, but it's still just the state of Minnesota.
Real quickly now, because we're about to wrap up here. What other cities? I mean, MCIL is not only in the Twin Cities. Where else are there
Centers for Independent Living. So the ones that are close to the cities, we've got Rochester.
Okay.
We've got Illisil that's outside of St. Cloud. There's a Center for Independent Living in Duluth. There's a Center for Independent Living in Hibbing.
Oh.
There's a Center for Independent Living in Marshall. There's a Center for Independent Living in Mankato.
Mankato. Okay.
And then there's a Center for Independent Living in, I think, they're in Fargo.
Okay.
But
That's good.
That's
Cool.
kind of the whole grouping.
Okay.
Well, we'll quiz Mark on this later,
Okay.
and he won't remember a single one of them.
I can't.
It's good to reference though, you guys. We all centers have the same approach to services,
Okay.
and we all want to see people with disabilities out there doing what they want to do.
It's always nice being able to chat with you, sir.
Definitely. Thanks for the invite, guys.
Yep.
And want to thank our guest, Nick Wilkie, and along with my co-host Mark Knutson. This is Charlie Bros. This has been another episode of Disability Landscape. We'll see you next time.